love to see it. Landorus finally in a positive matchup here. At this point, there's no reason for him to throw Hydro Cannon, so I try to catch the Earthquake onto the Landorus. And I try to swap out to catch the Earthquake. Was I able to? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Ox here with another video. If you're new to the channel, we do upload Pokemon Go content mostly related to PvP, so please consider subscribing to the channel if that is of interest to you. And if you're a returning subscriber like Mauricio Heredia, thank you for the support. In today's video, I have finally found a team that has successfully tanked my rating quite a bit, and it features a new Pokemon, a pretty spicy one at that. This is a Pokemon that we know is going to be very good for the Master League. However, how will it perform in the Open Ultra League? That Pokemon is Landorus in its Therian form. Now this Pokemon is ranked number 276 on PvPoke, so that is pretty awful, you know. If I could summarize this Pokemon in one word, it would probably just be glassy or underleveled. I think those are the two main issues it has for the Ultra League. So for this particular meta, it does lose really hard to Giratina Altered, which is a huge problem, of course. It loses to Cresselia, it loses to Swampert. All these Pokemon are very common. And then on top of that, because it is flying and ground type, it gets absolutely slaughtered by the ice types just from Ice Shard alone. So when I started these battles, I was about 30, 70 something. The first set, I purposely left all the matches and I went 0-5 because the queue times were ridiculous. That brought me down to just around 3,000. At that point, I started running a team with a Scizor lead and then Landorus in the back. That did not go well. I went 1-4. I got to about mid 2900s, and I started running these two teams. And these are the sets there. See if Landorus is worth investing for. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like. It really helps the channel grow. Leave a comment in the comments section down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And without any further ado, let's jump into the first battle right now. Alright, so this first battle here isn't from the two sets. This is from a different set where I used Scizor in the lead, lost a bunch of matches, tested out this team for the final battle, and I sort of liked how this team performed better, so this is the one I rolled with for the set after. We got Lapras into Zangoose here, which is never a great lead, but it is playable, of course. We can win this in most shield situations. They almost never go for close combat, so I let the first one go through. It's Night Slash at this point. It's looking pretty good for us. I'm gonna throw the Surf here, at which point we should be able to farm down, probably just shield once. Hopefully shield the close combat as well. So I was expecting a close combat here, so I did decide to shield, and it's only a Night Slash. And then at this point I make a mistake, because the mistake wasn't throwing, the mistake was shielding right here. This is the mistake, because it's obviously a Night Slash. I thought it could have been a close combat, so I put myself down 2 shields, which is never a good sign, and we see a Swampert come in. Now Swampert's a bit problematic because it destroys Landorus. Hydro Cannon basically one-shots, which is insane to think about, but that's the case. So Lapras here going to throw the Surf. Opponent doesn't shield at all, which I'm very happy to see. And I try to swap out to catch the Earthquake. Was I able to? Oh my gosh, yes, it is an Earthquake, because that was super risky because Hydro Cannon would one-shot right there. So I figured the opponent had to go for the Earthquake to KO the Lapras. Took a huge gamble right there, and it paid off. Tom Dwan style. We got Talonflame here, going to KO for Flame Charge. So it just goes to show you how glassy Landorus actually is. Going down to a Flame Charge there. Giratina comes in. This is a winnable matchup still, so let's see if the opponent's going to throw the Brave Bird here. They go for the Flame Charge instead. Or actually, this is their last Pokemon, right? I think the Swampert went down, or did they swap out? No, they still have the Swampert, so actually a little bit surprised to go for the Flame Charge there first, knowing that I can swap out. And I do swap into Lapras here. Was going to go for the Surf, but not able to. So now they're forced to burn energy, and I should be able to get to the Dragon Claw here. They did not swap out, might have been stuck in their Incinerate animation, which means Dragon Claw comes through, knocks out the Talonflame. Swampert comes back in. We take that first matchup after giving up 2 shields in the lead match, coming back thanks to that excellent sacrifice from the Landorus. Actually, it wasn't really a sacrifice because it was a catch, right? And we got another horrible lead right here in Obstagoon. So Lapras into Obstagoon. thing about this matchup is you can actually win in these 0 shields if they're not running cross chop, and it just involves you landing an Ice Beam, at which point you could win this. It gets very close, but you can win in the 0 shields if no cross chop. So I go for the Ice Beam here, and the opponent actually shields. So at this point I swap out into my Landorus, and I actually get to this Superpower before they throw a move. So they're either going to go down 2 shields here, or they're going to get knocked out. They let it go through, Landorus takes it out, you love to see it. Gengar comes in, so I'm trying to build up for this Stone Edge here. This should only be a Shadow Punch. I assume we could probably survive this. I don't know if we can with the debuff. We survived just barely after the Superpower debuff, so that's pretty impressive, to be honest. You know, it's super glassy, but did manage to survive a Shadow Punch while debuffed. So we do get the final shield there on the Gengar, and Giratina comes in. Giratina versus Gengar. You know, Shadow Claw does a lot of damage. Shadow Ball really is going to hurt, but Gengar can't really beat it unless it has a shield advantage or if it lands the Shadow Ball. So we take care of that. Cresselia comes in. This isn't great for us, not only because of that slight lag there, but because my Lapras in the back doesn't have much play against this. The thing though is that we do have a shield advantage, so it becomes a winnable matchup for Giratina, and with a full health Lapras in the back, pretty much, not full health, but still relatively healthy, it should be able to be used as a potential shield here if I need it. See, I come in with Lapras here, and I basically force Cresselia to dump its energy here, because it needs to throw a Grass Knot. Goes for the Moonblast, that's not going to KO. That means I'm going to be able to get to this Surf. Surf's going to apply a lot of pressure here, should be enough to KO the Cresselia. No, just barely not enough. Gengar comes in, and now we should be able to farm down. Opponent backs out. We take that game against another pretty bad lead right there. TMSolarblade in the next matchup. We got Lapras into Serperior. So this is another horrible lead, actually. I don't recall having so many bad leads, but that could be a factor, obviously. It's not just Landorus that makes it difficult, but getting some pretty bad leads is also pretty challenging. And we see a Lapras come in here. Now it is purified, so typically when I see a purified Lapras, I assume they're probably running Skull Bash. And if they are, this actually becomes a pretty decent matchup for Giratina, because if Lapras is running Skull Bash and it's not a Shadow, it's actually a pretty winnable matchup for Giratina. Like, it still loses, but it's very close, and if you have an energy lead, you're pretty much going to win. Or if you choose to use a shield and they do not shield, you're going to win that as well. So you can see right here, the Lapras comes in, and I make a huge mistake here. For some reason, I want to win Switch, which is a really dumb idea because none of my Pokemon beats Serperior anyways, so the shield advantage is a lot more important, and I could have come in and farmed down a bit to get an energy lead with my Lapras if I let it stay. Instead, I don't do that. I pretty much get farmed down here by the Swampert, and I go down and shield. Now my thinking was I'd have 2 Dragon Claws ready to throw out whatever comes back in. Was hoping that maybe I could save this for the Serperior, but when the Swampert came in, I can't really bring in the Landorus, so I could bring in the Lapras, but it was a really tough situation, so I really don't like the way I play this. I think the correct play would have just been to let the Giratina go down there, keep the shield. So definitely a misplay there on my part. Frenzy Plant comes through, I swap out into the Landorus now, hoping I could take this matchup. So I know I could survive at least 1 Frenzy Plant, but I know it's going to do a lot of damage as well. That is insane how much damage you're taking there. I go for the Superpower here, hoping to get a shield and then throw another move. They do not shield, so now I was kind of hoping I went for Stone Edge. The problem was, even if I did go for Stone Edge and I did knock out the Serperior, they would just come in with the Swampert after, pretty much farm me down, and then I'd have no play because they would just shield up the Surf. They'd have the Hydro Cannon ready, and they'd pretty much knock out the Lapras. So there wasn't really much of a win condition at that point. Basically, I threw the game when I decided to shield the Giratina. If I did not shield the Giratina, there was some play out of this matchup despite the very unfavorable lead, but things happen, we make mistakes, we move on, we learn. SinPoke0903 in the next match. We are leading the Lapras once more into a Machamp. So another horrible lead actually, so this is looking pretty bad. I swap out into Landorus and the opponent is staying in. Now this is probably a cross chop to be honest, but I did shield it thinking it could be a Rock Slide. Rock Slide actually hurts Landorus quite a bit because of the flying type, so, and on top of that it's glassy, that's pretty much the main reason. And we do get a shield there, And I'm going to go for the Stone Edge here. Or sorry, I went for the Stone Edge, I'm going for the Superpower on the Machamp. They shield that, so I get both shields. And it looks like they're going for a farm down. I decided to go for the Superpower here. Best case scenario, this will be CMP tie. And it is CMP tie. Actually, if they didn't throw that, I might have been able to farm out Mud Shot. Actually, maybe not, because we were debuffed twice. So best case scenario there, I think. They do have a move, so I come in with Giratina because they were farmed a lot. I didn't want to bring in the Lapras to take that damage. So I just come with the Giratina to soak up this cross chop and then farm down the Machamp. We have a shield advantage. They come with Obstagoon. That is not good. I have two Pokemon weak to that. Not only to Obstagoon, look at this backline. I have Lapras weak to Melmetal. I have the Giratina weak to Obstagoon. This is a horrible matchup to be in. Opponent's going to be throwing move. I'm not going to be shielding anything at this point. The Lapras here is basically just looking to do some residual or some chip damage, I should say, and pretty much soak up all the moves here. So I'm going to let this go down, and I should survive this, which will mean I will get to one more Surf. I wasn't sure I wanted to KO here though, so I do undercharge, so I wanted to swap into Giratina and farm down, but we actually simultaneously swapped. So now we're in a tough spot because it's Giratina versus Obstagoon, and I actually lose this in the 1 versus 0 shields anyways. So it's a pretty tough spot. Like, I'm hoping they don't get an attack boost here because then it's game over. If they don't get an attack boost, I think I have some opportunity to win this game still. I had a slight energy lead and I still have the potential sack in the Lapras, so I'm not giving up on this game yet. I'm not going to shield until it's absolutely necessary, and since they haven't got the boost, I'm risking that. I'm still waiting for that potential shield in case that happens. They tried sacking, didn't work out. Obstagoon comes back in. At this point, I didn't sack, so I'm going to use my shield, and I'm praying I could outpace it to the next move. Thankfully, we can because of that slight energy lead I got. So we end up taking that game in one of the... That was like a triple hard counter team pretty much. I actually don't know how we pulled that off, so that was pretty impressive. I remember we lost a lot of games, but that was impressive. We got R stands for Reezy here. Shout out to my guy Reezy. Very talented battler. We got Lapras into Politoed. And basically this is pretty bad for me because I don't know what the heck I was doing here. I swap into Giratina, which doesn't really make sense. And at this point, I let the Blizzard go through. I knew it was going to be Blizzard, but I figured that there was going to be a hard counter for the Giratina anyways in the back. So I just decided to let it go through. And then the Lapras isn't going to be able to get a lot of farm, which is actually pretty good for me. The main issue is that the Giratina is pretty much my only counter to the Politoed, so I don't know why the heck I switched out. I wasn't really thinking at the time, but I should have stayed in Lapras versus Politoed and just played out the 0 shield, because if they're not running Earthquake, it's actually a winnable matchup for me in these 0 shields. So that's what I should have done. I didn't know they had Blizzard obviously, but that's how I should have played it regardless of what moveset they had. And in this situation here, I'm basically going to throw a Surf and then just look to farm down completely. The main issue is that my Landorus gets destroyed by this Lapras and the Politoed, so the Landorus basically has no play in this match. I'm going to actually swap out into Landorus once we get close enough here. Look at how much one Ice Shard did. It's pretty crazy. And I get an energy lead. At this point, he's kind of just looking at me, probably thinking I'm a maniac. So he comes with Giratina, and as you can see, this team actually triple hard counter to Landorus, which is totally unintended because I don't think anybody ever prepares to see a Landorus here. It just happens to be the case that Landorus had 0 play against this team. So I shield up the Dragon Claw here, and I'm going to have to tank the second. I have to shield up 1 at least to get to the Stone Edge here. You can see it does so much damage. We do get to the Stone Edge, and I'm going to look to swap out into my Lapras and throw the Ice Beam. So I'll either KO the Giratina or get the shield. But as you can see, I actually over-tapped. And I threw an extra Ice Shard while I was at 100% energy, which is so dumb. And the Ice Beam ends up landing on the Politoed, which honestly, it doesn't matter in this matchup because the game is over. So it doesn't matter if I knocked out the Giratina or not because the Politoed is basically going to sweep. And yeah, at this point, obviously I'm not shielding because the game's over. So I just come with Landorus and let him farm me down. And very dominant win there for Reezy. I think he has a Twitch channel actually, so definitely check him out. Reezy, very, very strong battler, and he whooped my ass there. We got Lapras into Giratina here in the next matchup, and opponent swaps out to Escavalier. Now, right here, whenever an opponent swaps out Escavalier into your Ice type in the lead, they're instantly telling you they have double steal, like every single time. And usually with double ice, I don't bring in the Giratina for this reason, right? But when I bring in Giratina here, it's obvious because I have another counter in the back for a steel type. So I know there's a steel type in the back, like it has to be when you bring the Escavalier there. Wouldn't, well, I mean, it could be other things, but it makes a lot of sense to bring the Escavalier with double steel in the back. So I decide to farm this down here. The Giratina comes back in. I'm going to throw the Dragon Claws. And just let the Giratina go down here. I want to maintain alignment. Get this Giratina really low, let it take me out, then come in with the Lapras. And then expect the steel type in the back. They swap it onto Melmetal. I bring in the Landorus here. You love to see it. Landorus finally in a positive matchup here. But it's still a little bit tricky. I'm going to let the Rock Slide go through. Look at how much that does. Pretty much does like 50% here. Now, thankfully, the Thunder Shocks aren't doing anything, because if they were, this would be probably a losing matchup for Landorus, believe it or not. I do get the Shield Bait there with the Stone Edge. Didn't want to debuff myself with the Superpower. And now, basically, it's going to come down to a 2-shield matchup. I just want to build up to 2 Superpowers and throw them. The main thing here is I do not want the second Superpower to get caught by the Giratina. So I do sneak in the extra Mud Shot here. I'm going to shield. I'm praying that they do not switch out. The switch timer actually is up. So I got very lucky here that the opponent did not swap to catch this. They might not have been aware of the energy count. Lapras comes in. This is game over. We actually had a positive set with Landorus, and this was the only positive set on the day. We went 3-2. And as you can see, we're at 2973, so we did drop quite a bit from 3070. Rinda Man 510 in the next matchup. This second set, we are testing the Articuno lead instead of the Lapras. So let's see how this one plays out. We got Articuno into Swampert. Alright, we got a positive lead, so maybe this set will be different in terms of the leads here. You want to stand against Swampert, basically go 0 shields, only match shields if necessary. So that means if they shield, then you shield. They bring in Snorlax. I'm actually going to throw the Icy Wind here first, because neither of my Pokemon actually have a good matchup against Snorlax, so pretty much need to throw the debuff in order to make this playable for Landorus. Snorlax is going to come in, throw the Body Slam. Does a lot of damage. Imagine if that was not debuffed. It's pretty crazy how glassy Landorus is. I'm going for the Stone Edge here, and they let it go through. At this point, I'm going to go for the Superpower, and probably not expecting a shield here, to be honest. They do let it go down. Now Swampert's going to come back in, hoping I can get to this Superpower, which I am able to do. So this should do some nice chip damage right here. And they can't really farm us down with Mud Shot, which is really nice. They can over farm energy though. Going to throw the Hydro Cannon here. And that's going to be absolute overkill, probably doing like 400 HP worth of damage there with all those debuffs from Superpower. So the Articuno comes in, going to shield up the Hydro Cannon here, and unfortunately they beat me to the second one. It's not going to KO obviously, but I was hoping I could throw the Ice Wind first. Is CMP tied though, so I do undercharge here. Not expect them to shield, and they do, and now I bring in my Giratina to counter the Registeel. So them shielding there actually gave me a win condition, because Registeel would win this matchup in the 2 versus 1 shields most likely. So I got pretty fortunate that they wanted to keep their Swampert alive for whatever reason. Maybe thinking I had a Steel type in the back possibly. So we're going to go for the Shadow Sneak here. This is a matchup I played many times, and it is winnable for Giratina, of course, as long as it is even shields. So I'm going to go for the Shadow Sneak here. At some point, I'm actually going to swap out into Articuno right here. And basically, this is going to force the Registeel to throw energy. They cannot bank 2 moves. And now I know they're going to try and swap out into their Swampert at some point to try and catch as well. So I was waiting. They didn't swap out, so I decided to throw the Shadow Sneak here. And I'm going to burn my shield. If they come to Swampert, I'm probably going to be forced to throw energy. They do. I don't want to take any chances because I know it generates energy very quickly. Just throw the Dragon Claw here, knowing that I can farm down with the Giratina on this Registeel. And we're actually able to do it before the game time runs out. So we take the win in the first battle right there. We got Javis 0-0 in the next matchup. And we're leading Articuno into a Alolan Muk. So another pretty positive lead right here. And this is another matchup where you don't necessarily need to shield anything, you could win. This is only a Dark Pulse, so I don't want to shield it, even though it is the first one. I'm going to let it go through, because we still win this on even shields. If they decide to shield something later on in the match, I will decide to match it. Icy Wind comes through, and we do get CMP right there. So this is another Dark Pulse, not going to shield. They're not even building up for the Sludge Waves, so not really threatening me too much. Going to throw the Icy Wind here to let that go through, and we should be able to farm down before the next move. So perfect. We have lead, we have an energy advantage, and we see a Cresselia come in. So I'm going to debuff it here with the Icy Wind, and they probably can't farm us down, so they actually do throw energy here, which I'm okay with. Gonna come in with the Giratina, and they have a Swampert in the back. So obviously I can't bring in the Landorus here because it's going to get destroyed. So match is kind of going to come down to Giratina at this point, and I guess saving Landorus for the Cresselia, although that's not a great matchup. But if I can maintain some sort of shield advantage, then we have a chance. At this point, I feel like they're going to bait, so I decide not to shield the first one. It is a Hydro Cannon, so we do call the bait. And then at this point, I figured, okay, this is probably going to be the Earthquake now. So I shield to another Hydro Cannon, so it's a little bit tilting. And then I get off this Dragon Claw here. This will probably get the last shield if they want to keep the Swampert alive. At this point, there's no reason for them to throw Hydro Cannon, so I try to catch the Earthquake onto the Landorus. And it's a Hydro Cannon again. I don't know what this opponent is doing. They're just continuously baiting. So at this point, I'm like, okay, well, this is another Hydro Cannon, obviously. And somehow they had an Earthquake now. So I don't know what the heck happened there. Well, we got like completely destroyed in that Swampert game. So I kind of feel like I threw, to be honest. But the opponent made some great plays. BernieSandersN in the next matchup. This is one of my worst games ever played, I think. So BernieSandersN, very strong trainer. We got a Cresselia lead here into my Articuno. Now I always stay in this matchup. I know Bernie runs a Lapras with Skull Bash, also not Shadow, just a regular purified Lapras with Skull Bash. So my idea here was that I was going to bring in the Giratina in the hopes to draw it out, but that makes no sense because I should be staying in with the Cresselia because I know I could beat this Lapras with my Giratina, and it's my only counter for the Lapras on the team. So why would I bring it in to take damage from the Cresselia? If they stay in like they did, then I pretty much have no play after, right? Because I have no answer for this Lapras, basically. Landorus gets destroyed by it, so I swap out into Articuno here. And at this point, the game's pretty much done. I'm already like thinking like, oh man, I threw this game so bad. What's wrong with me? Because I came into that Giratina matchup and I have to shield against Cresselia anyways. I get the boost here, which isn't really going to do much for me. I guess I could have tried shielding here and just tried going for some Articuno sweep. Maybe that is what I should have done, to be honest. But I kind of wanted to test Landorus out against this Stunfisk, so I wanted to save a shield for it. At this point, this is one of the worst games I ever played, to be honest. So Rock Slide comes through, and then I'm going to come with Landorus here. And I could have thrown that Superpower, but I chose not to, so I'm going to take this damage first. And then I'm over farming. They swap onto Lapras. I go for the Stone Edge here, which is a mistake. Should have just went for the Superpower since I have the Giratina ready. And then I go for the Superpower now. At which point the game is over. Like there's nothing I could do, so I'm just gonna back out here. That was one of the worst games I ever played in terms of like how my decision making was so poor that game. But BernieSandersN is a very talented trainer, so I made a lot of misplays, unfortunately. But that's a pretty difficult team comp to go up against anyways. So we got Articuno into Cresselia here. I mean, it's difficult with Landorus in the back because, I mean, to be honest, the Landorus could have actually beat the Stunfisk, so I just misplayed it in the lead match, switched down to Giratina, but it is what it is, right? You learn. And since I'm trying to take anyways, it doesn't really matter, I guess. So Articuno into Cresselia here. You see, this is how I usually play it. I just stay in. They swap onto Swampert. At this point, because I have so much health left on the Articuno, I'm actually going to decide to stay in here just because Landorus has such a horrible matchup and I don't really want to lose my Giratina yet at this point. So I go for the Icy Wind here. You can see the backline of Giratina Landorus is a little bit risky because of course it is going to struggle a lot against like Charmers, for example. But even something like Swampert presents a lot of problems for the backline, so it's a little bit risky. Landorus doesn't have much play in this particular meta just because of how glassy it is in general. It's going to be a lot better Master League for sure. But we do lose there. I come with Giratina against the Swampert, and I decide to throw the Dragon Claw before they get to the Earthquake. If they want to throw Earthquake, they're going to have to shield here, which they decide not to do. They come in with Muk. So the unfortunate part with Muk is that Landorus actually loses this matchup despite having the ground typing. So like that in itself tells you how glassy it actually is. And of course, Giratina doesn't have a good matchup here either, right? So I wait for it to throw its energy, then I swap out into my Landorus here. And at this point, the play basically is to tank a move here from the Cresselia, throw the Stone Edge, hope it KOs. If it doesn't, we have a decision to make. So I go for the Stone Edge here. It does not KO. It's in farm down range. I decide to shield this up and go for the most aggressive farm down because I need 2 superpowers here. One, to get the shield from the Muk. The second, to knock it out. Now, I'm hoping what I could do here is throw the superpower and then swap out into the Giratina, knowing that after I get the shield, I will win CMP tie with Landorus, but my switch timer wasn't actually up yet. So I'm forced to throw this superpower again, and that forces the CMP tie here. Dark Pulse is going to knock me out. If I could outpace to the Dragon Claw, we could actually win this game, and I'm able to do it. Is this enough to knock out the Alolan Muk here? It's going to be close. Yes, it is. This is the second time in this video we pulled off a crazy win against the backline that we had no reason to win against. So I was pretty happy with that win right there. We got Dr. Love in the last matchup, and probably the worst lead you could see with this team, and its charm, so even worse. I have no answer for this. Alolan, Ninetales, XL. So I think the play here in hindsight, you have to throw the Icy Wind the first time just to reduce the charm damage, because if you could do that, I think you could actually get to 2 ancient powers after and make this matchup a lot closer in the 1 shield, because they'd be forced to shield after on the 2nd ancient power. So take this in. Look at how much health my Landorus has, and look at how much health the Ninetales has. And I go for the farm down here, right? Look at how crazy this is. By the time I finally farm this down, I'm already basically in the red almost. So this game's not looking good. I slightly go over 100 energy here, which is never good. And Politoed comes in, shields up the Stone Edge. I go for the superpower here, and I'm going to swap out into my Giratina. I'm hoping they don't have another counter for Giratina in the back. Did catch the Weather Ball here, so that's really nice. And it's their own Giratina, so unfortunately, Politoed destroys Landorus, so this game is pretty much over. If they had something else that, I mean, if it wasn't Giratina, it was something I could like beat, at least in this particular matchup, then maybe. But what I noticed here is the opponent's going for Shadow Sneak. And at first I thought, you know, maybe it was just an accident, but they continue to go for Shadow Sneak each time. So what this told me was that they're obviously running Shadow Sneak plus Ancient Power, which I really do not recommend for Giratina. I think you really do need Dragon Claw. So Politoed comes in, and I'm going to throw the Dragon Claw here. I need to catch a sack here. It's the only way I can win, and I mistimed it. So I was hoping I could outpace it to Superpower with the Landorus. I knew I had some residual energy left on it, but I didn't know it was that low. And unfortunately, we're just 1 too late there. Politoed's going to outpace us. We almost came back to win this game anyways, but we do end up losing that. So we end up going 2-3 in this set, and that was pretty much how the day went with Landorus on the team. So those were the battles featuring Therian Forme Landorus in the Open Ultra League. Is it a fun Pokemon to use? 100%. I cannot wait to use this thing in the Master League. I think it's going to be very strong. Unfortunately, it's a bit too glassy for the Ultra League. As a result, it loses a lot of matchups that it otherwise probably would win. With that said, still a very fun Pokemon to use. Probably not the best team to build around it, but we did pull off some impressive wins with it, and I'm actually tempted to use it again. So let me know if you guys want to see more Landorus gameplay on the channel. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, commenting, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.